Hello and welcome to Minitab 22. We now have this nice new shiny web interface, and so you can go to app.minitab.com, and if the class has just started officially, if the term has just officially started, go ahead and give me a few days to make sure that no other students are going to join the class, and then once that date passes, that's the last day to add the class, I'll go ahead and send off your email addresses so that you can register for Minitab, and you would just go to app.minitab.com and sign in with your email address, and then you'll see a screen much like this, except you won't have all this information. You will type this information in, so you can type in the name of each variable in the gray area. You must type in the name of each variable in the gray areas, and this is just going to be a shortened version of whatever question you ask in your survey. So here, the survey participants were asked how many cats they owned, how many dogs they owned, what their favorite dog breed was, what their preferred dog size was, did they own any other pets, or how many other pets did they own actually, and if they could have any animal in the world, what would they choose? So all of these have been given variable names. And then if we look at the data, you can see that we have 30 rows, and you need to have at least 30 rows of data, so that represents 30 survey participants. And you need to have at least 5 columns of data to represent your 5 questions that you ask. At least 2 of the columns should be quantitative data, and here we actually have a third column as well of quantitative data. And notice how all of the columns with quantitative data do not have any dash T's after the C number. So it has C1, C2, C5, no dash T's. And that's exactly as it should be once you finish. If you have problems with that, message me and let me know, and I'll try to help you out. And then the C3 dash T, that is for any categorical variables. You're going to have the dash T's, but they should not be there for the quantitative. And then the next thing that we want to do is kind of put our name on it, put our stamp on it once we have our data in there. So let's do new report, and I'm going to right click on this and rename and call it project 1. Enter, and then here I'm going to right click and insert a row, and right click and insert annotation. And now I'm going to paste this from the instructions, and I'm going to make it bigger so that the formatting is nice. And I did that by just mousing over when it did the right arrow and then dragging. And then you can change the name of the group, and I guess we need to do a hard return to, and then your group member names, and of course I don't really have any other group members, but you would put them here, and then the due date. So I believe that this term's due date is February 2nd of 2022, and so that's pretty cool. 2222, lots of 2's. And then what do we want to do? The next thing that we want to do is a whole bunch of cool statistics for our quantitative variables. So I'm going to stat and then basic statistics and display descriptive statistics, and I actually already have them all in here. So, but if I didn't, I could select one at a time by double clicking on each one, or I could select them all with the shift key and click select, either way. And then I'm going to do some certain statistics. I want the mean and the standard deviation. I want the 5-number summary, although that's just part of it there. There's the min and the max. And I do want the interquartile range and the mode. I don't want the sum of squares I don't need those either. In total might be good to have, though. I think that's it. Yeah. And then graphs, I want the histogram and the box plot. Yours won't be checked. You'll have to check them. So, but going back to statistics, make sure that you have the mean, the standard deviation, all of these checked, the min, the max, the range, the skewness, and you can do in total or not. I'll take or leave that one. But don't do all of these, but don't do more than these, because it's going to be a tight fit when we paste it into. I'll show you that. Okay, so when you do that, it's going to give us a new report, generate a new report, and it has this. This is the thing that it's going to mess up if you put too much stuff in there. That's why I said not to do more. So if we copy and paste it into, already you can see it's a little bit running over where the word minimum and maximum and skewness, but it looked much worse when I had a few, like even just like 2 more variables in here. And you can see the numbers run over a little bit too. But I guess if you made the font smaller, it would do it. But I really want all those variables. They used to do it on separate rows, but they don't. This version doesn't do that. And then you can kind of see poking that we have histogram. So we have 3 variables and 3 rows for our 3 different variables that give us all these stats, which is nice. And then we have 3 histograms, 1 for each variable, and we have 3 box plots, 1 for each variable. And the second thing, or the next big thing that we want to do, second big thing that we want to do, is we want to do tallies. And those are like frequency tables. I call them frequency tables. They're not exactly the same because they skip. They only give variables values that are there. So they skip values that have 0 as their frequency. And so that's under stat, tables, and tally, individual values. And we want to do all of them. So all of them, select, and I did that using the shift key to highlight all of them. I highlighted the first one and then shift and then the second one, but you could do it one at a time by double clicking if you wanted to. We also want to select percents and then OK. And here we should go through each variable, although it really won't matter for the quantitative, because the quantitative is always true, that it will just have 1 row for each value. But for the categorical, if you have any misspellings in just one cell, like let's say we had said Great Dane instead of Great Dane here, then because there are 2 Great Danes, one of them may have been spelled correctly and one incorrectly. So go through the list and make sure you don't have any that appear twice, because even if it has an extra space, even if I had put an extra space in this cell, then it would have messed that up and it would have had 2 Great Danes in here instead of 1. 2 rows with Great Danes. It's okay to have 2 values of Great Danes, of course, but not 2 rows that have Great Danes. So for every categorical one here, large and small. Oh, and this one, you have to go to the right to see the rest of them. Don't really like the way it does that. That's different on this version. It used to be that instead of things moving to the right, it would just display it below. I hope that they fix that in a future version, but we'll see. Okay. And then the next thing that we'll want to do is a pie chart. And so we will go to graph and pie chart. And we'll select the count of unique values. And this time we do not want to do our quantitative variables. We only want to do our categorical variables. And so that's going to be the favorite dog breed and the dog size preference and the desired animal. And I want separate graphs. And we want percent. Okay, and here we have our 3 pie charts for our 3 categorical variables. The next thing that we want to do is we want to go back and look at our quantitative variables, and we want to choose the one that looks the most bell-shaped. And so we can look at both the histograms and the box plots, but the histograms will tell us a little more. So this one's pretty right skewed. This one is also right skewed, but less right skewed. And this one's very right skewed. So I would say this one of the 3 is the most bell-shaped. This one's nice because it doesn't have any outliers, but it does still have a lot of skewness, and there's nothing over here to the left. And this one, the other 2 have outliers. I'm going to go with the number of dogs owned to be our most. It may not be enough, but it is our most normally distributed, our most bell-shaped curve. And then we're going to see if it's bell-shaped by making a probability plot. So that's under graph and probability plots right here. We want to just do a simple one. And dogs owned is the one that we decided on. And we will do normal and okay. And you can see that we do have a dot here and maybe even here. So maybe about 3 dots that are outside, and this one's right on the line. But we have 3 dots that look like they are outside of our 3 guidelines, which means that we are probably not normal enough on this variable to do all kinds of wonderful things that we'll do in chapters 7, 8, and, well, particularly 8 and 9. And then the next thing that we want to do is we want to compute z-scores for our most normal variable, our dogs owned variable. And so we will Calc Standardize dogs owned, and we want to store it, actually let me go, we want to store this in C7. So we want to take our first column that doesn't have data in it, and we want to store our z-scores in that column with that's the first one. So Calc Standardize, and the z-score is the standard normal score. So when we standardize, we are making z-scores. And we are going to store the results in C7. And I'm going to capitalize the C and the 7 and not put any spaces or anything in that. And here it describes what it's doing. It's subtracting the mean and dividing by the standard deviation. And if you look on your formula card under Chapter 2, that's exactly what we do for z-scores. We take the observed data value, which will be the values inside dog owned, and we'll subtract off the mean and divide by the standard deviation. And then that gives us all of our z-scores. and I'm going to label this column Z, and you should too, by the way. So that's our Z column. And so let's do a tally. The next thing that we want to do is a frequency table for these Z-scores so that we can put that frequency table in the report, because this column won't copy and paste. There's no copy available. But if we do a tally, we can copy and paste the tally. So we want to go to Stat and Tables again and Tally. This time we're just going to do a Z-score. And counts and percents is fine. So select OK. And now we can see kind of our maximum Z-score and our minimum Z-score, and really every single possible Z-score that we have, and how many of them we have. We only have one. That's probably that one outlier on, or actually maybe we had two outliers when we looked at it. Let's go back to the picture. Let's see, that's the dog's owned histogram. Yeah, two outliers, and they were on the high end, so that means they would be positive Z-scores. So yep, those are the two outliers right here. Now these are two outliers based on the outlier definition that's on your formula card of being more than 1.5 interquartile ranges away. But I think that the report asks you to do the empirical rule, and so that might not be an outlier. Maybe even neither one of these would be outliers based on the empirical rule definition. I'll let you decide in your report on that. And let's see, the next thing that we want to do is still for this normally distributed variable. We want to look up the mean and the standard deviation because we're going to use that. And so our mean is 1.667 and our standard deviation is 1.213. Okay, and we're going to use that. We're going to do cumulative probability, which cumulative probability function, which is what we're going to do, is CDF. And if you do your calculator CDF, that's really what we're doing here. And it can be found under Calc and Probability Distributions. So click on Calc and click on Probability Distributions, and then CDF, Cumulative Distribution Function. And it even has an inverse, if you saw back there, it even had an inverse one, so we could have done inverse as well. So we want the mean let's see, will it let us move? Oh, awesome. Okay, we want the mean of, we said 1.667, and the standard deviation we had was 1.213, and we want to do for the first quartile and the third quartile. And so that's what I forgot to look up. Okay, so the first quartile is 1 and the second quartile is 2. We'll do the first quartile now and then we'll redo it for the second quartile. So our value is 1. We'll go ahead and write it just like it is, although it really should just be 1 exactly. We'll just 1.000 display in a table. And so there's our answer for that cumulative one, and we'll do this again, Calc Probability Distributions. Here's where it has the inverse norm or inverse CDF. And then we'll change this one to be what Q2 was. Oh, I'm no longer on there and it won't let me go back. But Q2 was a value of 2. And so, or I'm sorry, Q3 was a value of 2. It should be for Q3. And let me go back and make sure that that's true. If not, we can delete and redo. But Q3, yes, was a value of 2. Q2 was also a value of 2, but we didn't need Q2. We needed Q3. And so, yeah, we've got the mean and the standard deviation, and 1 and 2, and the mean and the standard deviation, and 1 and 2. I like to double and triple check to make sure that all those values are good. And then we just want to save. So File, Save a Copy, and I'm going to call this Ashley's Project 1, because we are now finished with this. And OK. And I'm trying to save it to OneDrive. And if you can save it to OneDrive or even Google Drive, if you happen to have a Gmail or Google account, then you can share it with your friends. You probably don't want to share it with your friends, but you can share it with your group members, and you definitely want to share it with your group members. So I don't know if that copied a link to the clipboard or what. It's not really worked. It had worked earlier though. When I clicked share, it had popped up something, but I know there is a way to share the file if you have it somewhere publicly. Now, if you have it on your computer, you can upload it to D2L, but there's a way to share the link to the file, I believe, and it's just not working when I click this right now. Let me see if Nope, that's definitely copied and pasted information from Minitab, but it's not the file. There's probably, yeah, I don't know why that isn't working right now. Let me show you one other or a couple other things before we leave. So here where we have all these tallies, and you kind of have to scroll around to get to them. If you're doing the report part and your job is to get this last tally, then you don't want to copy all of the tallies because it'll look pretty nasty. Let me show you what it looks like if we happen to copy all of these at once into our report. It really looks bad, right? So we don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to do a screen grab. So on the Mac, I am pressing the little magnifying glass that does the spotlight search, and I'm going to type in screenshot because that's all I can remember. That's what they're called when you take pictures of the screen. And so I'm going to open that. On a PC, I bet you could search on screenshots too, but it's called the clipping tool, I believe, on a PC. And then I'm going to make the region so that it is just selecting whatever variable I want. Here I'm going to say desired animal. And then let's see if I can bring this, drag this. Yeah, this is the toolbar. Then I can just select capture on it.
Playing from Ellen's Mac Mini.
That was loud. Sorry about that. And then, no, I don't want to do that. I can hopefully just paste. Oh, nope, it's still pasting. But it should have saved it maybe to the desktop. Let's see. This is it. No, I still don't want to do that. So now I can copy Control C or Command C on the Mac and paste. So it's not quite as nice as my Snagit. My Snagit will just automatically copy it to the clipboard whenever I do that. But you can at least find it and open it and then put it into your Microsoft Word account. So that's how you copy. I would do that for the tallies and anything else that might run off like this to kind of fix that. Plus the tallies are just so big that you don't want everything on the tallies. You just want your particular variable. For these though, they're done separately. I wish there was a way to do the tallies separately. And so you can just copy one at a time. So you could do copy graph and then let me make this so that it's all up here. And then we could just paste it. So on all of these things, it's pretty easy to copy the thing that the output, I guess we would say, and paste it into your report. Now, the Minitab person won't really need to do this. This is more for the report people, the copying and pasting. So that's pretty much Minitab in a nutshell. If you run into issues, let me know. I've noticed that when I tried to standardize stuff, it did do some funny things, and I finally figured out the correct sequence that I had to do to get it to standardize. But yeah, it was trying to do some funny things on me. So if you do run into issues, message me and I will try to help you figure out how to get it right. Good luck.